Today we're riding Balm Boyette. Balm Boyette is about 10 minutes from Alafia. We're down here on a 2-day trip. We rode Alafia yesterday. So this is the new parking area right off 672, and it's a little ride over to the trails from here. So this is the little double track road from the parking lot over to the trails. Balm Boyette, you used to have to ride a long way, like 1.5 miles, 2 miles from the parking lot. This new parking lot, I think, cuts off a lot of that. So where are we heading now, Chris?
We came off of and then work over this stuff, the golf cart.
So I'm going to do a little voiceover for this video. I'll cut in and out with the sounds of the trail. I did not want to talk very much when I was riding. It was a Saturday. It was pretty crowded when we were riding here, so I didn't want to look like a weirdo riding around talking to myself on a bike. So according to recent feedback that I got on some of my Alafia videos, y'all don't like listening to music. You like hearing the trails. It's a trail called Golf Cart. One of my favorite ones here. Trail has some really nice flowing sections on it. I can't remember if it's one way. I think most of them out here are one way. Once you get off the green. In case it's not one way, my buddy's up in front of me. So I'm riding the Stump Jumper 29 on these trails, and the guy in front of me is on a cross-country bike, and I actually wish I had my cross-country bike when I was riding these trails. Although there's a lot of up and down on these trails, they are not technical at all. There's hardly any rocks, not very many roots. On the other hand, Alafia, I actually really enjoyed riding the trail bike. There's more technical, there's more jumps. These trails are built so well, but like I said, they are smooth. You'll hear me coming up on some of the other trails say that they are like a roller coaster. It's a sharp turn. They're just a lot of up and down sections on these trails. Once you get off the green trails, all the blues and blacks are just really constantly up and down. It's a good workout. I like the trails out here because there's a lot of variety. Like this trail is different than some of the other ones we've been riding. And then we're going to ride one a little bit later called Ridgeline. That is, I think, the best trail out here. All right, well, now we're on a black diamond called South Abyss. It's been a long time since I've ridden here. So going back to talking about the bike I was on, I actually felt a little over-biked trying to follow someone on a cross-country bike. And I actually rode a little bit harder than I had planned and got pretty tired later on in the ride. Also, that morning, I ate a breakfast at Starbucks, some oatmeal and a bagel right before the ride. And just a little tip here is you want to eat about 2 or 3 hours before a decently hard ride. Since I did not do that, it hit me later on the ride, and I got a little blood sugar drop, and that added to my fatigue. However, it was still a really fun day on the bike. Feels like a roller coaster. Just don't throw your hands up. As you can probably tell in the video, the weather was absolutely spectacular on this day of riding. This is early March, and it got up to about, I'd say, mid 80s, maybe even upper 80s by the end of the day. It's a little warmer than normal, but it was really beautiful. And one thing I like about these trails is all the green, all the ferns. There's a lake that you go by oftentimes.
Most of it's not too technical, it's just a lot of up and down. Fun. Oh, these bars are too wide for a lot of these trails. All right, gotcha.
So as I mentioned back there, I hit my bars on the trees about 3 or 4 times on this trail, and I'm using 780s on the stump jumper. Another reason why the cross-country bike would be a little bit better for these trails. So in case you're wondering what bike works well for these, if you ever ride here, hardtail totally fine, cross-country totally fine. I just like going fast, and on these trails I could have gone faster on a cross-country bike. But you know, if you have a trail bike, a lot of fun as well, especially on Ridgeline, which I'll show later on in the video. That's a really fun trail.
This is North Abyss.
Since I've been geeking out about my camera setup, I'll go ahead and mention that on this video I'm using the Hero 7 with the windscreen, not using the gimbal. The Alafia videos that I shot, I did use the gimbal. I like a mix of both. You know, some people say that the Hero 7 without the gimbal using the Hypersmooth just gives a little bit more realization when you hit the bumps on the trail. The gimbal just smooths things out so well.
I'd say it's a little tight. So like South Abyss, North Abyss is also like a roller coaster with some tighter turns.
I want to mention something else about the weather. For me, these trails are much better in the cooler months.
Lose, drop. Ridgeline. Ridgeline on a heavy trail bike. Should be interesting.
Because we get a lot of summer rain in Florida, these trails can also be fairly wet and just kind of humid and buggy. That's why I like riding these trails much more in the wintertime. So if you come from up north and you come in the summertime, be careful. The heat in Florida is no joke in the summertime. So I'd say the best months to ride these trails are going to be anywhere from late October up to late April to mid-May. So as you heard me say earlier, this is Ridgeline. Wrapping up the video here with this trail. It's the best one out here in my opinion. There's some pretty big drops, and when I say drops, I don't mean like getting air. It's just a steep descent. A little bit steeper than you can tell on the GoPro. Just a super fun trail. This is probably 2 to 2.5 miles, and it's kind of cool because when you get to the end, you can loop back around, take another trail, and within 5 minutes be back on this trail. So if you want to do it over and over, which you probably will want to if you come ride these, you can do so. So this is getting near the end of Ridgeline, and there are these sections that you can take that are harder. So there's a sign that says harder one way, easier the other. And the harder ones are just some steep drops like this one. I think this one's called Max G's. And if you don't want to do this, you could have gone right there. But if you're a decently advanced rider, I would recommend doing these because they are a lot of fun. And sometimes you come over these ridges and you don't know what's on the other side. I don't ride these trails that often, so that kind of added to the fun factor. So we headed back to the car, got some more food and water, and then went back out for some more riding. So hope you enjoyed the ride today. Thanks for watching.